Hi there, I'm Police Constable Farzad Ghotbi out of 51 Division. I'm a neighborhood officer located here in Regent Park, and here's my partner.
Hi everyone, my name is Mustafa Popalzai. I'm also one of the Regent Park Community Neighborhood Officers, and we work exclusively in the Regent Park neighborhood.
And the reason we're here tonight at the community center is we're having a little session with the youth in relation to gun violence in Regent Park and how it's impacted the youth. And we have the youth here to talk about their lived experiences.
Tonight is all about the youth and the community. It's not about the police, it's not about anyone else, it's all about the youth. We want to see their perspective. We want to see what they are thinking and how they can come probably with some suggestions or ideas to fight the gun violence that has been happening in Regent Park for many years now. And that's the purpose that we're all gathered together to read the minds of our youth and see what they have to say in relation to the gun violence.
One of the most important things that we've missed in the past couple of years due to COVID and the pandemic is the relationships that we had ongoing. Obviously with the pandemic, we lost some of those relationships. So we need to reconnect and collaborate and basically bring the community back together and work together as one. And this is the reason why we're here, to participate and mainly to listen to the youth to see what they have to say, and they can provide us some of the solutions to this gun violence, and we can work together moving forward.
The children and the youth are our future, and we need to listen to them. And tonight, they have the chance to speak their minds. And for us as police officers, a time to listen to what they have to say, and a time where we can learn from them. We have a lot to learn from the community, especially the youth we have a lot of bright students, a lot of bright prospects out of Regent Park, and it's just a chance for us to listen to them and learn from them.
Absolutely, and this is part of a community engagement and community partnership, and the youth are part of the community, and that's the piece that we're always encouraging, that the youth are the future, and therefore they're part of the community, and therefore they're part of the solution as well.
So some of the youth that will be speaking tonight are people who actually have lived in Regent Park, have lived experiences. Some of them had some family or friends that were they unfortunately lost their lives to the gun violence in the area or in the GTA. So they're going to be speaking about their experiences, and we're here just to listen to what they have to say.
Thank you.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Jason. I'm with the Black Community Consultative with TPS. And we're here downtown today at the Regent Park Community Centre, and it's to connect with the youth and engage with the youth about gun violence and how to be safe and how to go about things in a different way. And events that happen like this is very important for the youth, because a lot of them don't have family, or a lot of them don't have mentors around them. And a lot of things that happens is they get caught up in gangs, they get caught up in situations that allows them to don't go down the road, and bad things happen. Not every youth and not everybody's wants to be on that road to do bad things or get arrested. So right now we are connecting the youth, is connecting with the police officers, building a rapport, and what they're doing is showing that they're willing to work, and the police officers are willing to work with the community. All right? Thanks.
Thank you, Regent Park Focus, for covering this story as always. So my name is Walid Kogali Ali. I'm a community organizer, but also a member of the Regent Park Neighborhood Association. So I'm here to help advocate for you. And the reason why I'm here is to support our youth who had a very traumatizing experience not too long ago, in fact, 2 Sundays ago. And we're hoping to basically change the way interactions happen in our community between our youth and police enforcement or police services, and also challenge how safety is delivered in our community. A lot of members of our community were traumatized by the excessive show of force that occurred on Sunday, and what we're hoping to do is change that dynamic for the better. And also we're going to be reaching out to the youth who are impacted and the community members that were impacted to better support them with any supports they may require. I know it's very traumatizing to be in an environment where you don't expect this level of presence of guns and police, right? So we want to make sure that our community continues to be safe and for better communication between all the parties that are responsible to make sure that youth, our seniors, and folks actually have the best conditions to prosper in our community. So thank you so much for covering this. And one thing that I'm really concerned about is the fear that our youth have shared with us, the fear of making a complaint, the fear of putting in a complaint to the Ontario Police Independent Review Department, OPIRD, afraid of talking even to regular police officers about their concerns. That is very problematic. That lack of trust is something that I hope will be addressed as well. Thank you.
The officers, we have Superintendent Rydzik, we have the Chief Consultative Committee, and we have guest speakers. So please, this is a conversation that we want to have with the young people. So at first we're going to have this presentation, but after that, we want to hear from you. We want to hear what's happening in the community. We want to hear about gun violence. We want to hear about the issues that is happening. And I think the point of having that tonight, it's maybe if you want to give us your contact, we can give you our contact, and can we maybe work together? Can we do something that we can create something that we can work together? Police, youth, community. And I know this is very difficult. I know we have a lot of issues, but I do believe that it's possible. And I don't think nobody wants to live in a place where we see gun violence. And I think that here, it's time for you to really, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from the young people, because often we see the adults speaking on your behalf, and I don't think it's right. So this is the time to tell about your concerns, and let's see what we can do, because this, I don't want this to be just a one-time thing. I want this to be something that we can work together. Superintendent?
Thanks. I'm Superintendent Dave Rydzik. I am the co-chair of our Chiefs Youth Consultative Committee. We have a couple of our members here tonight that has helped put this on, and I think we'll be hearing from them a little bit later. I was the inspector down here for just over a year back in 2015, so I know this community quite well through other work. I'm now out in Scarborough. But again, the youth committee is what brings us here today. And so I thank you, all of you that are coming out here today, to lend your ear, I guess, and your advice to what we can do to kind of work together to tackle this. Our committee has just started up. We do actually have a couple of members that are from the Regent Park community, but we're always looking for engaged youth that want to make a difference, that can be the voice for your community directly to the chief. So if there's anybody here that's interested in that, please speak to one of us afterwards. Again, thank you for coming out here today to enjoy or engage in this conversation. Gun violence touches us all. I'm out in Scarborough now, and in the last month, we've had probably 7 shootings, a homicide take place out there of an innocent bystander. And we hear about this every day. I think sometimes we're getting numb to it, which is a shame, because it does affect us all. These are all people's children, husbands, wives, friends, brothers, sisters. It has to stop somewhere. The dialogue has got to continue. And like Isabelle was saying earlier, we oftentimes, it's all adults sitting in a room that think they know the answers, they think they know what the youth perspective is on this, and we don't really ever ask them. So hence the youth committee, and hence why we're here, and this is really the youth audience here today. We want to hear from you, we really do. We've got a great panel up here today. You're going to hear from our Engage 416, which is some of the preventative measures that we're doing, engaging with people that are either subjected to or involved in the gun and gang activity. You're going to hear from some of our guest speakers who've got lived experience, having been in gangs and that. We also want to hear from you. So there'd be a formal side of things, but then we want us to have engaged in a conversation, right? So my pleasure to be here. I'd like to introduce Superintendent Chris Kirkpatrick, who is the unit commander now in 51 Division. He's recently arrived. Also, his second in charge, Inspector Angadvir Singh. Andy is also a part of our youth committee. He's the second in charge of that as well. So I'll let you introduce yourselves, gents.
Thanks, Eddie. Good evening, everybody. As David was saying there, we're really happy to be here as the new command team is taking over at 51 Division. It's important for us to get out to see the community, and that's all the community, and it includes the youth. I spent a lot of time here as a teenager myself 30 years ago in Regent Park, and worked across the street on Shooter all through high school. Family I stayed with still live there. This area has changed so much, and then becoming a police officer and coming back to 51 in the late 90s through the early 2000s, to come back now as the unit commander, to come back and see things is amazing. To see this community center and what it looks like now compared to what was here for the youth in the community before is just amazing. But we have to keep that going, and the only way we do that is by talking to the youth. Again, and I echo that, we want to hear from you. Myself and Andy are available. Our information will be available through the neighborhood officers. We want to hear from everyone. You're the adults, you're the future. There's no use all of us talking, trying to make decisions for you in your life, because we're not the ones living it. But we're the ones that right now have the ability to influence it, to level the playing field in a lot of things that we've seen with a lot of the money that's come into the community in this area, the revitalization. But that's only one portion of it. So it's our pledge to be good, true community members and people out there to assist all of the community, and that, of course, includes the youth. So thank you for coming tonight. There's going to be a great presentation and people, and just let us start by saying thank you. Andy?
Just, I won't repeat some of the messages that have been put out. I was having some informal conversations with some remarkable people at the back who have written a book or are writing books right now about lived experiences. But I'll tell you this, if there's anything that you can take away from this, is the only way to combat any problem, any successful organization starts with a network. And I see some of you sitting in tables collectively as friends. That's a network. This is the same opportunity here, that you form a network together, and this is a platform. And we're no different, we're part of that same community. And that's our hope today, is that we have that informal conversation and tell you a little bit about ourselves, what we're doing. But at the end of the day, it's all about network. So if there's one thing that we can continue with, is forming that network, making more connections, breaking the barriers, forming bonds that we can truly understand each other and how we can help not only the Regent Park community, but Toronto Police in being better at what we do. So I thank you for coming here today. Thanks.
Thank you, and I'm just going to, so I am the Youth Engagement Officer for the Toronto Police Service, and there's one thing that I truly believe in connecting with the community is the Neighborhood Officer Program. The Neighborhood Officer Program is there to really connect with the community, to connect with the young people, and to really, that's when we talked about issues and we can deal with real problems. So I want to introduce you to the two neighborhood officers in 51 Division. And you have to reach out to those guys, and that's when you will start connecting and building the trust. So if I can introduce you guys.
Sure. Thank you. Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for coming. We're your neighborhood officers in 51 Division, Regent Park. Myself, I've been around Regent Park for a while now. See, the hair is falling off and shows my age. But it's been an absolute pleasure for me to be a neighborhood officer here in Regent Park. I enjoy it every single day because I see good people. And that's something that we like to advertise in this neighborhood, because often you hear in the media and the things that happen, some of the gun violence, it's all kind of amplified. And I want to amplify the opposite. I want to amplify the good people, because we have so many great people in this neighborhood. And we need to encourage those people. Those voices need to be heard. Those are the people that we would like to encourage and continue to grow this amazing community. I watched this community go from just being a housing complex to beautiful condos, beautiful green space, and having amazing youth that are so active, seeing them outside playing games and playing sports. And this is what we do, is we want to engage with you guys. Yes, unfortunately, COVID took us back a few years, but we don't stop. Life doesn't stop. We need to move forward. I'm so happy that we're here tonight. This is a fresh start for us. I want to thank our command and our bosses here. I mean, without their support, it would be hard for us to carry on our jobs. And without your support, nothing would happen. So thank you for coming. I'll let my partner speak as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Mustafa Popalzai. I'm also one of the Regent Park neighborhood officers. I've been in this position for almost 3 years now, and my partner pretty much covered most of it. We do a lot of programs with the youth, running actually from this community center and from the outside. We have run tons of programs with basketball, cricket, boxing, and soccer. So we have a really good connection with the youth. But when we heard from Isabelle regarding this event, it actually made me so happy because it provides us an opportunity to learn from you guys, to listen to you guys. And that's what it's all about. So please share your thoughts, share your ideas, because tonight is all about you. We want to hear from you and we want to learn from you guys. So once again, thanks for coming.
So thank you, and I just want to bring to we have a committee. It's a Chief Youth Advisory Committee, and it starts from that as well. I just want to bring Dan and Adriana, that are two members, just to introduce themselves, because this is something that could be open to you if you are interested in joining this committee and bringing the issue that is happening in Regent Park. Would you like to come here for just introduce yourself? And then we'll have Engage 416. And after Engage 416, we have two special guests that they're going to talk about their live experience, but they are amazing. So I hope that you can stay for the night because I really want you to hear from those two guests as well.
Okay, hey everybody, I'm Adriana, this is Dan and I always feel like I'm going to pronounce it.
No.
Yeah. We're a part of the Sheets Youth Advisory Committee. We are basically a liaison for the youth in the community right back to the Toronto Police Service. We're really excited to be here tonight. Definitely Dan and I do more work within the LGBTQ community, so if anybody here is interested, we do have an event coming up for that as well. But we definitely are excited to connect with you guys as well because we don't do a lot of work. Us personally don't do a lot of work in this community, so it's definitely a good opportunity to network with you guys. So we're super excited. If you're interested in this at all, you can come talk to us and share your ideas with us because, like everybody else said before us, like we want to hear from you guys. We want to hear from the youth, and we think that's how the community will grow. I'm a very strong believer in that. We don't do enough talking with each other. Toronto is such a diverse place, and I don't even know like half of the communities here because we don't communicate with each other anymore, and I think part of it's due to COVID. So I'm super excited to be here, and I'm super excited to meet you guys and hear your ideas. I don't know if Dan, you want to add anything?
Sure, I'll ask. So my name's Dan. I'm also part of the CYC. I think that the biggest thing for me is that I'm just trying to see what the best way to extend resources out to the community and really make it possible for people to reach out without necessarily have to be a formalized member of a committee. Because I think everybody has something important to share and really a lot to give. So that's my quick comments.
Thank you. Hi, sure. Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Mac. Again, I am also part of the CYAC. And normally I work more in the northwest areas with youth and families impacted by gun violence. So it's a great opportunity to come here today and be a part of this event today and connecting and working and gathering ideas as well to see how we can combat gun violence in this area. So yeah, I'm glad to be here to be a part of the CYAC. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to have Engage 416. Thank you.
So within the project, which is called Engage 416, I oversee 23 Division, Julia oversees 12 Division, Marlon oversees 31 Division, and then Sean oversees all our social media output. So we have a presence on Instagram, on Twitter, on Spotify, and got some podcasts out on YouTube. And he recently started on TikTok, but unfortunately no videos yet.
Just to clarify too, the 3 divisions that we're in, this is the pilot project, what we're doing, which is the only reason why it's not citywide. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. It's a 3-year pilot project that's running in the northwest quadrant of the city. The reason we chose 12 Division, 31 Division, and 23 Division is because at the time, and still right now, they do experience the highest number of shootings and the highest number of homicides. So that is why we're focused there right now, but ideally after the 3 years, so far it's been going great. We would like to see it go service-wide so that the community outreach we're doing up in the northwest quadrant will eventually come to you guys too.
And our overall goal is to apply a violence reduction strategy, which includes education, prevention, intervention, and suppression strategies and initiatives, focus on reducing gun and gang violence, human trafficking, sexual violence, and harassment. Unfortunately, all three of those are very interconnected, and so we can't tackle just one problem and ignore the others. We've got to look at it collectively. So what brought us to the Integrated Gang Prevention Task Force? Essentially, we had an increase in gang violence. Ontario has the highest number of youth gangs. There are approximately estimated about 3,300 youth gang members and around 200 youth gangs that were in existence back in 2006, pardon me. So in 2016, our then Deputy Chief Raymer approached my boss, Detective Jason Kondo, and said, how do we get somebody out of a gang? Now, Toronto Police, our involvement with gangs is generally on the tail end, where an individual becomes involved in a gang, becomes involved in violence, whether it's human trafficking, it might be drug trafficking, whatever it may be. We do one of our big projects. There's a bunch of arrests made at the end of the project, and now we have contact with a number of these alleged gang members. So at this point in time, the individual is already very well involved in a gang, and it's very difficult to get somebody out of it, unless they're highly motivated or they have the right reasons for wanting to do it. Now, our approach to this was to provide a holistic support system to these individuals to give them the opportunity to change. So if they're looking to get legitimate work, if they want to go back and finish their GED, if they need a counseling for mental health, stress, whether it's drug and alcohol addiction, whatever it may be, we were going to provide that support or connect them with the agencies that would be able to provide them that support, because that's not our forte. We're not going to try and do something that we're not supposed to be doing. There are people who are professionals at it. We're going to hand the case to that agency and have them take care of the individual, provide support to the individual to have them be successful in leaving that lifestyle. As I mentioned, it's very difficult for somebody to leave a gang. So I can't speak to how successful it was. I wasn't involved in the unit at that time, but that's how we started off. From there, we proceeded to conduct a number of town halls. So between 2019 and 2020, we had about 31 town halls across the city in the identified neighborhood improvement areas. So we set up in a community center, wherever it may be. We put up posters. We let the divisional officers know we're going to be there. Open it up to anyone and everyone to come in, speak, share their opinions and their thoughts about what's going on in the city and how things should be addressed. So we had around 1,300 community members come out, 50 or more NGOs and GOs that came in and gave us some feedback. Following the town halls, we had a gap analysis conducted by Humber College. So they looked at what challenges the community members are speaking about and where the disconnect is between the police, between the city, between the services that they need. And they compiled a list. We wrote a report which was titled the Insights and Opportunities Report. So a lot of the things that people spoke about was that there wasn't a streamlined way for them to access services. They had to go to one agency to get a particular service, but then they had to go to somewhere else to get a different service that they needed. There was also difficulty in finding a point of contact. So they were having trouble and they had a lot of frustration with dealing with it. A lot of the times the agencies that they thought were really good and provided them the services they wanted, there was a high turnaround. So they were there one year, the next year they lost their funding and they're gone. And so now this person has to find a new agency that's going to provide them with the support they wanted. And like I mentioned, everyone is working separately from one another. There's no communication. Everyone is in silos. Although everyone is working together to the same common goal, no one is communicating. So they wanted holistic support and they wanted quality over quantity of services. So with everything in mind, we came up with a project titled Engage 416. What it is based on the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Comprehensive Gang Model. So it's a model that was studied in the States, it was implemented in the States and has been very effective. Unfortunately, we have to use that because Canada doesn't have that kind of studies. They haven't been able to test anything such as that, and so we relied on that. What it involves is creating a number of neighborhood teams within the neighborhoods that are being affected by gun and gang violence, and then focusing your efforts to that neighborhood as opposed to, say, the city as a whole. We're not trying to apply a blanket strategy to the city. It doesn't work. It's not effective. We need to tailor it to the neighborhoods that we're trying to make changes in. So it's based on 5 core strategies. We have community mobilization, opportunities provision, social intervention, suppression, organizational change and development. So community mobilization is what the neighborhood teams are about. We have approximately 10 community members and at least 5 social agencies that are committed to attending the meetings that are held monthly. The goal is to hear from community members what challenges they're facing, then collectively as a group, figure out how we can address the issue, and then action it. Opportunities provision is reaching out to the community, its members, and offering services that they may not know were available to them or did not know how to access. So when we started in September of last year, myself, Julia, and Marlon, we went out to the neighborhoods that we oversee, literally went door to door, dressed like this, knocked on doors, introduced ourselves, our unit, the project, and offered services to people. It was a very effective way to connect with the community. A lot of people took us up on the opportunities for going back and getting their education, if they wanted to get a job. And I think more than anything else, a lot of people took us up on the counseling opportunity for, a lot to do with COVID stress, and others were just their general mental health. The social intervention strategy is identifying youth that are at risk within the community of becoming gun and gang involved or being victimized for human trafficking and sexual violence. So we want to reach out, recognize these individuals, offer supports to them and their families, and also to individuals that we know are gang involved. Kids that are coming out of, say, being incarcerated, if they're on bail, in order for them to be successful in changing their lives, we want to give them those opportunities that we offer the community as well. But we want to tailor our approach to that individual. They're all different. They all have a different set of circumstances that led them to where they are. And so again, as with applying a blanket strategy to the city, we don't want to do that. We're going to tailor it to that individual, to that community. And lastly,
No, I just wanted to stress that BJ spoke about the 31 town halls that we did over the course of the year, and then of course the gap analysis that was done. The most important piece of this is that the way that we developed this program, Project Engage, was directly from feedback from the community. And I think Isabelle touched on it greatly, and I think it's so important, it's such an important point to hit home, is that you guys have to have that voice, because the police are never going to fix this problem. We just can't. It has to come from you guys. So I just encourage you, again, the work that we're trying to do came from the community. We want to keep that going, and you guys need to keep having that voice, more so than the adults above you. You guys really need to be, the community mobilization piece is you guys, and you're the most important piece in everything that we do. So I really want that point to hit home.
The suppression strategy is more of what the police would do and normally do. For example, if we have information or there's a concern from the community that there's going to be a retaliatory shooting in your neighborhood, that's something that we would take very seriously, obviously. Perhaps deploy more uniformed officers to the area for that particular day, week, month, whatever it may be, depending on the threat that's been made towards the neighborhood. And lastly, the organizational change and development. As I mentioned, a lot of feedback was that organizations weren't reliable or they weren't offering quality service. Individuals couldn't access the services. This is where, coming together within the neighborhood teams, we can address those issues and then find ways to make changes within the organizations and ways for people to access services and resources. So as Julia mentioned, we are a pilot project, and we do get this a lot as to why we aren't citywide. Because it's a pilot project, we're only focused in these 3 divisions at the time. It's in the northwest of the city. Those are the respective neighborhoods within the divisions. Right now, 51 Division isn't included in the project, but we believe that once the project is completed, this might be a strategy that goes citywide, in which case we will bring it to 51 Division. However, that being said, the services that I mentioned, whether you're looking for a job, if you're looking to go back to school, tutoring, mentorship, all those resources are available to anyone and everyone throughout the city. A lot of our referrals for those supports are through the PSRT unit. They do bail and compliance checks. Oftentimes they'll speak to the individuals who are on bail, ask them if they have any concerns or if they'd like to change their lifestyle, give them the opportunities that I mentioned, and it extends to the parents. A lot of times you have a child who is involved with guns or drugs or gangs, has been arrested a number of times. it can be overwhelming for a parent, it can be heavy on the parent, and so oftentimes you get the parents that are asking for counseling just to be able to deal with the stress of having a child who's now involved in the justice system. This here's a bit of a map just of the shootings from 2020 with respect to the city, and I know there's a bit of a concentration in 42 and 43 division, but majority of our shootings, firearm discharges, take place in the northwest of the city. Again, just another reason as to why we are focusing in this area. This particular map is from our Toronto Police Data and Analytics website. It's open source, so anyone can go online and access it and see what's going on in your neighborhood. You can filter out, shootings, theft from vehicles, break-and-enters, assaults, whatever it may be. It's very interactive and has a lot of information if you have a chance to go and check it out. So I mentioned with Engage 416, what we're trying to do is set up neighborhood teams. So we've done that in the neighborhoods that where we're focusing on. We meet monthly. We hear from community members what challenges they're facing. I'll give you an example. One of the biggest things that we heard from community members is that they don't feel safe in their neighborhood. They don't feel safe to the point where they won't use the park that's literally outside their doorstep because they're worried a shooting can happen at any point in time and their family, their children can be victim of a shooting. So oftentimes they will pack the family, drive to another neighborhood and make use of that park. In the very extreme case, we had a family tell us that after 6 o'clock after dinner, nobody is allowed on the ground floor of the house. Everyone goes up to the second floor because if there's a shooting, they're less likely to get struck by a bullet on the second floor of the building. So with response to that, one of our colleagues, Sean, he was a 31 Division neighborhood officer. He had suggested that we pilot a safe play initiative. So it started up after he left 31 Division, but essentially we had neighborhood officers who would go into the neighborhood, a particular park on a set date and time. They'd let the community know, hey, we're going to be here at this time. It's a safe time for you to come out. Bring your kids, bring your family members, enjoy the park space. It's going to be safe because there's going to be uniformed officers supervising the park while you're there. It gives the kids the opportunity to meet the officers the opportunity to meet the families, and the families the opportunity to meet each other. A lot of the times when we're knocking on doors, people will tell us they don't know who their neighbors are. They also told us that their neighborhood is safe despite there being a shooting the night before. Why? Because their head's down, they're walking to work, they're coming back from work, they don't interact with anyone. There isn't a sense of community in the neighborhoods. And so by having these meetings, we not only want to address the challenges that community members are facing, but we also want to bring people together so that they know that there are resources within their community. There are community groups that are active that residents aren't aware of because they've got their head down, and they're surprised that it's actually accessible to them. So we want to build those networks as Inspector Singh mentioned, and this is one of the ways for us to do it. We want to identify problems that the community is facing, we want to identify problems that the individual is facing and connect them with the appropriate resources.
So that you guys kind of have an idea of what we're doing. Does anybody have any questions or want to ask us anything? Go ahead.
So you said that you need people called in if they know there's going to be a shooting in your neighborhood.
No. Yes and no. Yes and no. I don't expect you to call in and tell me that something is going to happen. I understand you have safety concerns, right?
The whole community has safety concerns.
Right. No, but what I mean is, are you trying to say like you expect people to call in, but there's going to be a fear of them calling in and being labeled?
Of course. Like they're going to be labeled a rat, and then probably get shot at or killed. Like this is Regent Park. Like.
No, I completely understand that. I'm not suggesting that you call in during a neighborhood meeting and say there's a concern for this. What my suggestion would be in that case is if you have information, or if you believe there's a serious threat to the neighborhood at any particular point in time, you would have contacts made through these neighborhood teams. For example, I'm a point of contact within 23 Division for the neighborhoods that I oversee. So if during a meeting, I wouldn't expect you when there's 20 and 30 people on the meeting to say, hey, something's going down. No, you have my contact information. You can reach out to me and say, listen, this is information that I've come across. I understand your concerns. I would keep it discreet, but if there's a threat that there's going to be a shooting in your neighborhood, it needs to be addressed. So the information you give to me would be kept confidential. I would in turn let our divisional officers know that there's been a threat made to the neighborhood, and we would deploy more units to that area to make sure that it's safe. Does that sound reasonable, or is there still a concern there?
To be honest, like this is Regent Park at the end of the day. I mean, you could put up brand new buildings, it's not going to change.
I have a question for you. So if we have 98% of the population here living in fear of 2% of the population, how do we fix that? What do we do?
Fix that by making proper opportunity for each and every individual. Each and every individual comes from a different life and a different background. How are you going to tell these children, come, do this, this is going to be better for you, if you haven't lived that lifestyle? If a child cannot see themselves in you, then he's not going to mess with you. That's how it is in the hood. Like, this is Regent Park.
There's lots of kids here that are very successful. They're in post, and we see it where we are too. There's all kinds of kids that I meet when I literally go door to door. Like, we're as grassroots as it gets as far as policing goes. All kinds of kids going to post-secondary school. All kinds of kids working, being successful, leading great lives. Like, the majority of kids in these neighborhoods are doing great things. It's a very, very small percentage that's going down that bad path.
So, like, what, in your definition, what is successful?
I appreciate that it's going to vary person to person, but I think if you're, able to finish school, if you're able to get employed, if you're able to be from a, better yourself, like every generation we hope at any level. I hope my kids do better than me. I hope their kids do better than them. Again, building on what you've been presented, which again varies and sometimes is very low. I totally hear you and I get that. But the goal is to be better. Right now we have generational poverty, we have generational housing, generational everything. We're not figuring out ways to come out of it.
But you know that we have generational prejudice, right? Where people judge people based on their skin color.
Yeah.
So, to be honest, I don't see a black person in this group. You know what I mean? And I don't mean...
Marlon is a black man, and he's our partner.
No, but I mean black conscious to know, there's one thing about being black skinned and there's the next thing about being black conscious. If you're not black conscious, you can be black skinned all you want. Ain't nobody gonna mess with you. And I'm keeping it as real and as funky as possible. Because I understand you guys are trying to do the best you guys are doing, but you guys are on a totally different road than everybody else is. Like, we are on road reality where we face prejudice, we face racism, we face discrimination, but we suffer silently. And now I'm the one speaking on it, and you guys are still on a different road. So I'm trying to get you guys on the same road as I am to see this is what people in this community suffer from. Like, how do you fix a problem when a child's not trying to do wrong, but there's a lock on the right door? How do you fix that problem?
I see things that is not perfectly with you. And I see people will be on your side and you want to say something, like I just...
Oh, I agree with him 100%.
Yeah, and you want, and that's the thing, I can see that, and is there something you would like to add to what King is saying?
I just want to say, someone said, what is your definition of, successful? Because, I understood that because, what your definition of success might be is not everybody else's. And you can be successful if you, even if you don't go to school, or even if you go on a different path, totally different from someone else, Yeah. So, yeah, I think what he said.
Yeah, I just want to, first of all, thank you for raising that point. I want to thank my sister here for being brave and speaking up. It's not easy. Thank you. I just also want to ask a question about this presentation, but before I ask the question, I just want to share some facts. The Ontario Human Rights Commission issued a report. They looked at TPS data, all the arrests, and they brought something up that's very concerning, something called overcharging, saying that black men, black women are charged way more than their white counterparts. Those charges usually go to the courts pretty good, effectively. But when it comes to black bodies, they have to negotiate their freedom. And they don't have the privilege, they don't have good lawyers, they don't have money, they don't have privilege to fight for themselves. And I saw that firsthand. There's a young man in our community that got charged. Criminal, serious charges. Because he got charged, he got pushed out of TCHC. He got removed from the lease. He was left to the gutter. If it wasn't for my intervention to find him a home, a place to stay, to help him get access to a lawyer so he could fight those charges, this person wouldn't be working today full time. And all those charges been dropped. Okay? That's just one experience. Right? And what was so sad about that was I had to lobby TCHC to do the right thing, saying, how could you leave this person out on the floor in the midst of a pandemic? His mom needs support. His grandma needs support. You know what happened to his grandma? Just 2 weeks ago, she died from COVID. Just 2 weeks ago. And if he wasn't able to reunite with his mom and spend time with his grandma, he might have not even seen her. So we have to take these experiences of our youth, especially when we're dealing with systemic racism, seriously, when we're dealing with overcharging. This is not data that is private, it's public. It's shared with your police chief. It's shared with your police board. Let's do something about it. So my question is, with this pilot project, is it funded through TAVIS? Is it the same TAVIS funding? If you could elaborate on the scope of the project, because I'm interested in what's going on in the US, because you talked about what's happened in the US and they're trying to copy and paste sort of like their engagement strategy here. But what I'm hearing from members of the community is we are a different community. We're not the same, we're not the US. We don't have people shooting up people in our schools. We are looking for opportunities. We're looking for good jobs. So how do we talk about what programming exists by TPS, because of $1 billion in funding from all of us through the public, what programs exist to support our youth, especially when you're talking about stopping gang recruitment or that? Like, what is the real takeaway apart from just saying, hey, we're listening?
So can I just weigh in on that before they kind of answer whatever? So first of all, I guess this is kind of, I won't say a first step. We try to have as many meetings as we possibly can. I mean, again, engaging with youth. We've got a youth, I don't know where Isabelle went.
I'm just waiting.
But,
She's getting close.
She's worked all over the city with different communities and that. I mean, it's a start. We all have to start, right? It takes two people to be able to come together and discuss this, right? One of the things we want to do is we want to hear from King and the youth perspective on this, because what we've heard over the years is nobody asks the youth, right? Are we perfect as a service? Absolutely not, right? Is anybody in this room perfect? Absolutely not. Okay, is the Prime Minister perfect? Absolutely not. Oh my God. Sorry I mentioned that. I won't go down to the States and Biden or anybody else, but we're trying. I mean, we got to give everybody credit for trying. Right? I mean, there's no doubt that the officers that are involved in this engage 416, and it's not a cut and paste mistake. I don't know. I didn't hear that part. The meat and potatoes of this is that when a shooting occurs, it affects everybody. Okay, that young man or young woman or whoever it was that was involved went down a wrong path for some reason that they thought they had to pick up a gun. But by doing that, it also affects their family. Moms, dads, siblings, friends, neighbors, the whole bit. Grandmas, grandpas, the whole bit. In the past, that person was arrested, put in jail, and not given any resources, because at some point in time, they're probably going to come out, right? So not given a chance. Kind of like you said, kicked out of housing, that they come out of jail, and what are they going to do? They got no supports, no resources, or anything like that. They're going to go right back to that life of crime. In the meantime, that family is suffering. Okay, not only one that had the young man or woman that was involved in the shooting, but the family that's suffering because somebody got shot and maybe killed, right? So what they're trying to do with this program here is right from the get-go, okay, whether anybody's been hit or not, the person's arrested is offered counseling, referral services, over and over and over again to try and let's face it, right? If you're entrenched in the gang, very rarely, unless it's a life-altering experience, whatever, are you going to try to get out? But we're trying. Every single person that is arrested and charged with a gun offense is offered resources probably half a dozen times throughout the court process. But we're also now going to the families, and we're offering the parents resources to help them deal with the issue, the siblings and all that. It's all voluntary, right? But I mean, there are some success stories that they could probably talk about here that would, maybe hit home a little bit more. But I mean, I'll go back to, are we perfect? Absolutely not, okay? There are, but like I said, I thank the youth that are here today. I mean, do I live in Regent Park? No. Born and raised in Scarborough, okay? I lived in Scarborough. I still have family that lived in Scarborough. Why are you laughing at Scarborough? I love Scarborough. I
think we have a question there.
But I'm just going to finish. Like I have ties to the city. Like, are we perfect? Absolutely not. Okay, but we're here today to listen. We want to listen to the future. to what's going on, because we can't fix the problems. You're right. We don't live in your community. Some of our neighborhood officers spend a great deal of their time. They probably spend more time in this community than they do at home with the shifts that they work in that. We're trying to make a difference with some of these different programs, like 416, the Neighborhood Community Officer Program, to get connected more to the communities, because we want youth to go down that right path. We want to support families. We know we're not going to arrest our way out of this problem, right? It's a long-standing problem, systemic racism, poverty, the whole bit. We're not going to fix that overnight, but we have to be able to work together. If we can't converse and talk with each other and be able to work together and forgive and forget some things, we're never going to move forward. We're never going to move forward, right? So, like, give us a chance. We'd love to have you part of the team here to try and make a difference. That's all I'm trying to say. Sorry, yes, ma'am.
Is this like a conversation, like where everybody's able to like voice their opinion? Or is this like something where you guys are pushing an agenda, like this is what we want you guys to do?
No. Free to talk. This is what it's about. We thought we'd give a little presentation, but after that, it's open dialogue. We want to hear what you have to say and issues and.
It felt like when he was speaking, like I felt like you guys were just listening to answer and not listening to understand. Yeah, like it's like he's telling you like how like this community feels, or like how the youth of the community feel about certain situations, and you guys are not like listening. It's like more like let me listen what he says and then switch it up a little bit so I can like say, oh yeah, I'm listening, I'm paying attention, but you're not. Because honestly, as people, you guys are not people of color, or you guys are not black people, and you guys will never understand what we go through on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So for a black man or a black individual to tell you how they feel, you should like be very like, I don't know, like understanding and open and like very, I don't know, like you should listen like more. It doesn't feel like this is a conversation. It feels like you're listening to answer and not to understand.
And you know what? I agree 100% with you. And the point, and I have to say, like, so for me that was, as a youth engagement, that was my idea, to have you here and to listen to you and to have those conversations between youth and just to listen to you. And I'm glad that you mentioned that point, because that's exactly what we want to do tonight. So at the same time, we wanted to have Engage for 116 was here to maybe talk a little bit about what they do. But you know what? It's like it's really about the conversation, and we want to hear you. Like, and I agree. Like, I work with the Black community for 3 years, and I mean, I know a lot of people here, and I will never, like, the way that you tell me that, I am telling you, like, I totally understand. I listen all the time, and I'm a very compassionate person. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I don't know how you feel, and I will never know how you feel. But I want to be part of that. I want to be part of really understanding and make it better. And I'm very, very honest about it, because, I mean, do you have a person like King that I know for a few years, and King will tell you that, you know, we have a lot here, like, and look at some of the neighborhood officers. They really try to communicate with you. And that's the thing, is I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I want to hear, now we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you have to say. And let's start that conversation.
They're going to be saying this.
Go ahead. So, King, just before you say something, first of all, I want to acknowledge 100%, man. I understand. But if I just want to make one point, and exactly to your point, so I can tell you within policing, there's a conversation. You talk about systemic discrimination. Believe 100%. Either all marginalized communities are completely incompetent, or there's systemic discrimination across society. Yeah. But you know what? That conversation has started, and that's momentum. The reason why we're here today is momentum, and I totally, you know what? And you're bang on. We're listening, and I ask you to be part of the solution, not just me, everybody here. And you know what? Thank you for bringing that up, because that's how these conversations are very difficult, but they need to be had. People need to get uncomfortable.
No,
right?
Exactly. And my thing is this: you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable to hear the truth that you don't want to hear. Right. And put it this way: when there's a shooting that happens in Regent Park, You think John Tory comes down here, does a fundraiser, and goes on the camera and says, oh, this shouldn't be happening here? No, for real. When there was a shooting on Danforth, what did he do?
Yeah.
He did the biggest fundraiser for the community of Danforth, went on TV and said, this shouldn't be happening here. So where should it be happening? In Regent Park? So what, we shouldn't be allowed to walk out of our house and not feel safe? We shouldn't be allowed to go, wait at the bus stop and not have to make sure there's not a drive-by happening? Like, come on. When you want to address certain things, you guys should go straight to the source. Go straight to John Tory and be like, why don't you do that in Regent Park? Why don't you do that in Jane and Finch? What, predominantly black neighborhoods, black lives really don't matter? Like, that's what the black people are seeing in the community.
Exactly.
That John Tory does not care about black people. Doug Ford doesn't care about black people. That's what we're seeing. And that's all we've been seeing since the dawn of time. Like, if you're saying that you guys are going to correct the wrong, and you want us to open up to you, so correct the wrong. How many wrongs have to be done before something's corrected? Seriously, how many people have to lose their lives before something's corrected? How many times do we have to feel like we're hopeless because of our skin color and the way society judges us for something for you guys to do? For the longest time, you guys were carding us.
Yeah.
I remember being on River with all my homies, just chilling, playing basketball.
Yeah.
51 Division would roll up and search us. We're 16-year-old kids.
Yeah.
So imagine what that does to you when you grow up and become an adult. Imagine when your little brother sees that, or somebody looking from the window sees that. What are they gonna say? Oh, we're gonna, of course, interact with the cops because the cops are our friends. Like, this is what you guys want from the community, but you guys aren't giving us anything. Like, if I was to stab somebody in the chest and be like, yo, I'm sorry, but keep that knife in there, is anybody gonna believe that I'm sorry for stabbing him in the chest?
No.
But if I take the knife out and I mend his wounds and take care of him and make sure that he's good, that's more believable. For us, the knife is still in our chest. It hasn't moved, not even a centimeter, not even a millimeter. So for you guys to say you guys want to hear the truth, even though it's ugly, I'm going to give it to you ugly. Because we are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah. Well said. I just want to say one quick thing because I know you want to respond, but let's just remember that this community just went through trauma. We lost this is someone I know. He works in this community center. His name was Thane. He was gunned down on my street. He was gunned down at a park that my family and my friends go to every day. You know how many people felt unsafe? Knowing that at any moment, someone that they care about could be just killed, right? And then a couple of weeks later, when our youth were engaged in the revitalization to just discuss about community space and all that stuff, someone made a prank call and a heavy presence of heavily armed police officers showed up. And all they did was traumatize the youth. All they did was make people feel like they were criminals. The criminalization of black bodies, whether you see it or not, is impacting people living in our community. And what we want is actions, not rhetoric. We want real solutions. And when you're talking about opportunities for youth, there's a great opportunity coming up. For phases 4 and 5, we're trying to secure something called a community benefits agreement so that we have half the full-time jobs that are going to be brought through this almost $1 billion investment for phases 4 and 5, for half of those jobs to be filled by people living in our community because we got taken advantage of. Think about what we just went through. For this development, only 33 residents got access to good jobs. Only 33, everyone got part-time jobs. Only 17 members of our community got access to home ownership. Only 17. So everyone else got left behind. 260 people that didn't even live in this community for a second. They didn't have to deal with bed bugs. They didn't have to deal with safety issues. They didn't have to deal with violence that's happening in the neighborhood. 260 put a down payment of $5,000 that year and became multimillionaires in 5 years. We're trying to build a community that's not just for the rich, for the millionaires. And you folks actually have the ear of very privileged people in our community. We know that. They call you. They meet with you guys. Youth, black people living in our community who are living in poverty rarely have that opportunity. So I'm really glad that you said this is not the first, that there'll be more meetings to have this dialogue. But let's be conscious of what's happening in our community. We don't want presentations. We don't want to be told that you folks are doing a great job. We see it through the interactions we have with not just you folks in our community, but with the rest of the community. And what we need to change is less rhetoric, more action, and you be allies, be our allies to create those opportunities in our community so that we don't have to deal with the consequences of neglect and ignoring members of our community because they gotta eat. They gotta eat somehow. And if you don't create those opportunities, nothing's gonna change. So let's work together to make sure that happens. Also, let's be conscious that the youth, they know what they're talking about. They know what they're talking about, okay? And no matter how much adults like myself, anyone else wants to say anything, it doesn't matter. You know why? Because they can speak for themselves. And I've been to spaces where youth have told me what they want, and they've also told adults off. They've told adults off. It's like, listen, we don't have the support. We don't have access to space. Why don't we have a community governed space in our community? Why do we have to leave everything at 5 o'clock and leave? Why can't we do stuff after 5 o'clock? Those are real issues. Food insecurity is another issue that no one is talking about. You're forgetting to talk about the big elephant in the room, which is the root causes of poverty and the reasons why we're having investments in incarceration, which is what this is, investment in incarceration, because you're incarcerating people, instead of investment in opportunities for people in our community. And that's what it's about, right? At the end of the day, it's about resources. So we want your support to guarantee resources for us in our community, our youth, so we can actually build social cohesion and inclusion. So we can really be a community that cares for each other, right? So we're not pitted against each other. So no one feels like they are being targeted because of the color of their skin, right? Those are real experiences. Thank you.
I think that was fantastic what you just said. If I can encourage you guys to do something for yourselves, and this is just something we've learned as we've been doing what we're doing. You would not believe if I told you how much money is coming into your neighborhood. I think you would be mind blown. And you need to mobilize as a group of youth and find that stuff out and advocate for yourselves, because I'm telling you, just in 12th Division where I work, over $200 million is being poured into my neighborhoods, and they're not seeing any of it. But it's there. The money is coming in. There's no shortage of funds, I can promise you that. And if I were you guys, I would mobilize and find that stuff out as youth. Mark can speak to this as well. And find out what kind of money is coming into my neighborhood and what is being done with it. Advocate for yourselves. You guys are smart, you're resourceful, and you can do this. And I'm telling you, the resources and the money is there. And you guys would actually probably be better running your own programs. I wish people would tell that you can do this. I think too many times you guys are told that you can't, and you won't, and you can't succeed, and you can't do this, and all these barriers are there, but I'm telling you that it's there, and you guys could totally do this.
Just to add on to that point, my name is Mark Tennelly. I'm with 31 Division's Community Police Liaison Committee. I did some of the research in the funding that has been going on just in our division with 7 agencies, community agencies. In the last 5 years, those agencies have received from government grants $118 million. The vast majority of that money has been used in management. So salaries, budget, executive bonuses, all that kind of stuff. So, and the reason why I want to say this because you guys are very important. You guys are very special. You guys have a lot of power. You just don't know it yet, or someone's telling you that you're not, or they're lying to you. If you guys can get together, mobilize as young folks and big groups of people, you guys have an enormous amount of power and the ability to make change. It's almost as if the system is keeping you guys down as a product, right? And you're not. You're special. You guys have a lot of power and good futures. We just need to make that happen now. So I'll be in the back of the room after the meeting. If anyone wants to talk to me, I'm more than willing to help out. I do this with my community up at 31 Division in the Jane and Finch community, and it's it's sad to see what's going on, but it doesn't have to be this way. I've partnered with Toronto Police now. I'm a volunteer. I've partnered with them for the last 7 years, and I think it's probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life and for my community, because I'm dedicating a lot of my time to helping everyone. I see the racism. It's there. No one can lie. No one can say it's not true. My sons are both black, and I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've seen the hurt in their eyes, and it actually makes me want to cry thinking about it now. It's a horrible thing, and I want to fight it with you guys, and I want to make this a better community as well too. So another point, when it comes to the shootings and the violence, if anyone does know anything, if you don't want to talk to the officers, call 222 TIPS. It's 100% anonymous. If you guys know anyone who has a firearm, again, stray bullets don't care. They don't care what color you are. They don't care how much money you have. We lost a little boy in our division a little while ago from a stray bullet. Hit him in the neck, brain dead, and then they had to pull the plug on him a few years ago. The gangs don't care. Bullets don't care. If you know anything about firearms, please call it in. No, you don't have to give your name, you don't have to give any information except what you know about that. They're not going to ask for your phone number, name, but please call it in. It's very important because bullets don't care. So that's what I say.
So one of the things I heard you say, you said, we're smart, we're intelligent, we're excellent, and we should just apply because these grants and resources are there. And I hear that. I don't think there's a problem with our belief system and our faith and our ability or capacity to go out there and apply for these grants. I think there's microaggressions. I think there's prejudice, there's stereotypes. I think there's systemic racism that plays a big part in us accessing those resources. So let me say this. So I've been, in the social and community work for a while now, and I would say I'm intelligent and went to school, have a career and so forth, right? I go to these grants, and sometimes I see these grants applications. I'm like, wow, you really need someone who really knows what they're talking about. And I have that belief system. I'm like, I believe in putting, action. Faith without works is dead, right? So I put the action, I'm applying for these resources. They come back to me and they're like, we didn't put the right information, right? So then, like any wise person would do, I would go out and seek the help because I guess I don't have that knowledge. There's something that I'm missing. There's something I'm not putting there. I will go contact somebody who's an expert in that field who's doing that. We will do it and we will still get denied, right? So now I'm feeling hopeless, like, you tell me I'm great, you say I'm amazing, I'm an advocate for the community, but even though I apply to these grants and these funding and these resources, I don't get it. But you know where they go to? They get to the big organizations that are already popping, that already have millions of dollars, that have a whole team and staff, working on their behalf and apply for these grants, and guess what? They continue to get funding. So guess what? The grassroots, the little nonprofits, the youth like us in the community are not getting funded, right? But we're always told, keep trying, you'll eventually get there. And even when we do get the grant, guess what happens? It's not sustainable. Yeah. You do it for 1 year, 2 years, and then after that, dude, we're trying to scramble and look for funding, and guess what? We can't run the program. And if you can't run the program, we can't make the impact that we need. We can't make the sustainable change that we need in communities, right? So,
well said. There's no doubt about it. And I've seen the same thing, right? And I know what those grants are like, right? Because I get denied with them too. Even some of the community organizations get denied because they're so darn complicated to do, right? But there is some assistance we can get through our people, like with the city, the CCRP folks and stuff like that can help out. But it's broken. You're right. You know what? You come in with a program, it starts to make a difference, the funding runs out, it's gone, and those people that were part of it are left stranded, basically, right? There's no maintenance program or support mechanism there. That's a whole different, conversation there. But we do have some span of influence with the city and things like that, with community organizations that oftentimes just looking on your application, the fact that you partner with the Toronto Police is a big boost to the application itself, right? So, in certain circumstances like that, reach out to your neighborhood officers, reach out to Inspector Singh at the division, and there's something we can do to help further that, because the grassroots ones are the ones that make a difference.
I want people to listen to him. Please listen to him. Go ahead.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, sure.
you tell us this now, but I've been doing that.
Yes.
We've been doing that. Like, we've been reaching out, we've been making those connections. I've known you for years now. I have made more money going out there in my career and my own business than coming to you and asking for, begging you guys for money. And you guys constantly shut me down. You guys tell me beautiful promises, but they're broken, they're empty. Yeah, yo, we'll help you, yeah, we'll support you. But that doesn't happen. That's not the reality. We go out and then we try, and then guess what? Do what you said, you're like, yeah. And then we come back to having these conversations. There's no more long talking. We don't want to talk anymore.
Action.
We want you to put your money where your mouth is. And put your money behind us. And then we'll feel like we're supported.
Yeah. I just want people to listen to what my friend here is saying, because he said a very important point. Grassroots organizations are not getting this support. Let me tell you what happened for phases 1 to 3. Dixon Hall, all the agencies got all the spaces. Every grassroots organization that has been doing this work for years helping got left out. And we're trying to now convince Tridel, the new developer partner, TCHC, Toronto Community Housing, that's ultimately responsible for the development. And it's a subsidiary of the city, and our council. What we're trying to do right now is trying to convince them, do it right. Do a study. Find out which grassroots organizations are operating in Regent Park. Guarantee them space. Guarantee them resources. Because why are they left behind? And all these anchor institutions with millions of dollars, a lot of assets, their own buildings, are just eating and milking the money that could actually go to support youth through grassroots organizations. That's the point that he's making, that I hope you listen. Like, what are you going to take back to the chief of police? What sort of funding support or allyship are you going to ask so that grassroots organizations are not just told, keep applying for the grants, brother. Keep applying. Okay? Instead, it's more intentional. Here's how we're going to support your grassroots organization, deliver critical interventions in the lives of young people in your community. Here's how we're going to support you. Here's how we're going to support the youth. Here's how we're going to support their families. That is intentional. That is caring. That is listening. Just saying, do it and follow the process that's broken. When you just said earlier, all of you said earlier, we're dealing with systemic racism. We're dealing with systemic barriers. How can you ask people who don't have privilege to address systemic barriers? It's the people with the privilege. And there's no more people with privilege in our society than police services. You folks have over $1 billion in operating budget. You're almost one of the biggest organizations in the city. You can do so much if you work with the community by identifying real solutions. And that shouldn't focus on incarceration. It should focus on giving people opportunity.
I appreciate everything you guys have said. I'm listening to it as it goes. So, to address your questions about where there are... I have one more question. Go ahead. Sorry, my apologies.
When you're ready, put up your hand.
You have a question?
Yeah, she had a question, but she's not ready yet. She's just...
Okay. So, to answer your question, our funding is from the Frontline Policing Proceeds of Crime grant for the 3 years. The project is based on the study or comprehensive gang model from the States, because there isn't one similar in existence here in Canada. The studies are all done in the States. I understand that the US gangs and Canadian gangs are very different, so the model has been tailored to fit the City of Toronto and the neighborhoods that we're in right now. Each neighborhood is different, to your point. I'm not going to understand your life experiences unless you tell me about it, right? And even then, I haven't experienced it, so I'm not going to fully understand it at any point unless I experience it myself. So ideally the way the project would work is that, let's say we decide that it's going to expand into the Regent Park. It would take place somewhere similar to this, in a community center. We would invite people like yourselves, community members, youth, and then agencies, like whoever the active agencies are in the community, to be present, along with members from the city, from the schools, from probation, parole, whoever it is that you guys would want or consider important to be at that table, to be there, to have conversations like this, to address, okay, well, I put in a grant, why isn't it being looked at, or why was it denied again? Oftentimes, as the superintendent said, agencies can partner with us. It does boost your chances of getting the grant. We also, through our, writing for grants and reviewing again grants, asking for adjustments and whatnot, we know some people at the grant approval for a city. We can ask them to have a look at your grant to say what's missing or how can you improve it in that sense. In terms of us being able to provide you with money, as much as we have a budget, it's for operating. We don't have money that I can physically, as a unit or as a service, give you. We can't support you in being part of whatever program you want to set up, whether it's, say, we need a couple of police officers to be present to help out with facilitating it. That we can do, but to give you money, honestly, I don't have it.
That's my point, brother. It's not about giving us money. It's about priorities. I'll tell you what I mean.
You need the money to do the program to address all the issues.
3 weeks ago, Premier Doug Ford announced $70-something million, $75 million to Tavis. Okay? So something. Okay, I misspoke, not Tavis. But it was a new announcement for $75 million. Let me give you some context. For Revite, phases 4 and 5, Tridel gave us $26.8 million for community benefits. Okay? 26.8. When we costed out the community priorities report, and the community priorities report talks about a community governed space, it talks about home ownership, pathway to home ownership, it talks about hard targets, good jobs. When we costed all of it, it was over $100 million. Just over $100 million. So we have a gap of about $75 million. Imagine if the Premier got a call from the Chief of Police from Toronto, from Ottawa, from every major city in the province, and said, you know what, our Premier, we love your support. I know his brother-in-law is a cop, from what I can check on social media. We love the support, but that funding could be better spent on actually supporting communities, create opportunities, so that those folks do not need to be on the street trying to eat. And basically because of that, they got arrested, right? That's a simple, imagine if we work together at that level. That's not even happening. We're not even talking to the decision makers with the same wavelength. We're fighting over resources. You folks have to take money for your operations. You got salaries, you got management, you got all this stuff, and you also have money for some programming. I respect that. But when you have an impoverished community, what are you expecting to happen? Right? That dynamic is not healthy. It's not for social cohesion. It's not.
The money, even the money that we have for programs, I've got to apply for it. It's all grants. So we honestly don't have money. But you're right. We do have contacts with people
the disconnect
that do.
Is with the city. It's actually not with the police. I think you're disconnected. Your issues that you're having are actually with the city. They're government level. That's, I mean, it's, maybe the superintendent can be more of help with that. We really don't have that. We don't have that ability, first, like myself.
I'm with the BCC, and we've been doing a lot of groundwork, through every single community, every single neighborhood, and so tell them what BCC is. Speak up.
So BCC is short for Black Community Consultative Committee. So on that committee, it's basically of colored people, young and old, sit together and talk to the communities. We talk about the issues that are facing each community, and we try to solve those and support each other. We go out to different events, different workshops, whatever it is, to support each other as one and resources as one. So that's what we do. So for example, this was happening here today. All of us, myself, King, Leah, Jay over there, we're all part of BCC. We have more people who are part of it. We're just here to support any capacity that we can.
Yeah, like I was saying, you think we don't talk to the mayor? I was part of the partnership and accountability for anti-Black racism. And he was the one that brought the idea to our attention, saying that he wanted to change Dundas Street. And I told him that is the dumbest idea I ever heard in my life. You know why? $60 million.
Yes.
$60 million. Imagine what every neighborhood, if they got a portion of that, what the neighborhood would look like. But you're going to spend $60 million to change a name of a street. Dundas. Dundas Street, $60 million. Does that make sense? No. So my thing is this. Remember, I had a conversation with John Tory. He doesn't listen. He pretends to listen. No, I'm being This is nonsense. $60 million to change a name of a street, right? You have people living in poverty. Some people are losing their jobs right now. What do you expect is going to happen? If somebody has to feed their family, it's by any means necessary. Right or wrong, you guys are the police, you can judge that, whatever. But at the same time, look at what the society is creating for us, which is a problem in our own backyard. When people that have it, and then there's people that are have-nots. So instead of spending $60 million on a street sign because he was racist, look at the premier with the blackface. What difference is that? No, honestly. No, the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, with blackface, right?
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna have an argument with any police officer in this room. That's ridiculous, man. I'm with you completely on both.
And this is, seeing that we agree now, we should come together and address John Tory, the community and the police. What is he gonna say then? Honestly, if you're saying this is not going to be the first meeting, the next meeting, bring him. There's nowhere for him to run. Why do you guys have to get the brunt of this when these people are the ones creating policies?
Well, with what you're saying about having the meetings repeatedly and us not listening to what is being said, the meetings that we have, for example, with the project right now, they're held monthly. So every month we have the same meeting. We can invite everyone who wants to be part of it. If there's somebody in particular they want present, we'll reach out to them and ask them to participate. But it would happen every month. Now, if we were to come into Regent Park and do it, it would happen similar like that. The idea is, if you're all present to be there, then you dictate how things go. So if you want somebody to be there, or you want to have a meeting with a particular city official or a particular agency, we can make that happen and say, we would like you to be part of this meeting, this is what it's about, come. We hear what concerns you have, and then collectively figure out a way to address it with whoever it is that you think is responsible to answer for why things are happening. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We want to hear from you how we can make things better. This is not my thing, community policing. I've never done it before. So I'm learning as I go. I don't have answers to some of the questions you have, but honestly, the way that the model is set up, it makes sense. It's like, if we have challenges or issues in a community, the best people to ask how to fix it or what the challenges are the people who live there. Us as a police, with the project that we're working on, we're just trying to facilitate things. I'm not here to tell you that I'm going to solve your problem. I want to help try and solve it. If it means that I can put you in contact with the people who can make that happen, then that's what I'll do. I want to work as a facilitator because community work is not something that I'm good at. I'm going to find somebody else who's better at it for me to do it and hear what challenges you have. But the meetings are supposed to happen monthly. Hopefully, this kind of a strategy goes citywide and we can have meetings like this every month once that happens. But for now, it's just in the Northwest. So
you're right, though. The people that should be hearing you are not here right now.
Yeah.
It's not us.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to be serving to you guys, but damn, man. We're the policymakers that do these, mandatory maximum sentencing for young black people. This is stupid. Why aren't they in this room getting this lip service? These are the people that should be getting slapped up by my words, not you guys.
I would love it for you to be here.
We're hearing.
There's a question?
There's a couple of youth there.
I was gonna say, do you guys have connections to the more upper people, like John Tory and all these premier.
John Tory sits on our police.
I'm sorry.
I tried.
You guys have connections to him, yes?
John Tory sits on our police services board.
Do you guys have connections to him?
Yeah.
Yes. So
I can't email him and say, hey John, hey buddy, how's it going? But he sits on our police services board.
And why don't you bring him to the next meeting?
Yeah, we can certainly request that. You know what I mean? But I think, again, if we can maybe refocus this back to whoever, I get it. There's lots of problems going on here. We're not the solution to all of them. We're as frustrated as a lot of you in the community. The grassroots piece, I've seen it with my own eyes, 100%. All right, a lot of those big organizations eat up that money that gets to them. The grassroots one are the ones that actually know what the problems are, know who needs the assistance, and can make it happen, right? there's only so much we can do. We can try, we get denied grants too, right? All I'm saying to you is, from me to you, okay, and the officers that are here, commitment, we will do our very darndest to help anybody out to try and get a grant to better their community, if it makes sense, okay? Direct connection to the mayor, he's not my friend. He sits on our police services board. But there's city councilors that are direct connection to him, right? I think that's a separate meeting to have. You've got a direct connection through him, through the BCC. The BCC has a loud voice. You guys can come to the police services board. It's open to the public, and you can hit them up. And I know Sarah that in the past have done that. But again, this meeting here today was because we did want to hear from the youth in the community. We wanted to hear how the most recent violence has affected this community. We wanted to introduce our neighborhood officers for those that didn't know them, and talk about some of the things that we're trying to do with supports to families that are involved in or have been suffering from gun violence. I mean, we are trying, okay? Again, I'll go back to, are we perfect? Absolutely, absolutely not. But I can tell you, in my 30-year career, we are light years ahead, okay, in community-centric policing and trying to work with the community than we ever were before. Okay, this is a start. I mean, I'd love for everybody here to stay connected, be part of our committee, be part of the BCC as well. I think we can amplify everybody's voice, because I agree with a lot of the statements that are being said here today about the funding and all that, right? So,
what's your name? Both of you guys.
My name is
Mustafa and
Farzad.
And it's you. Henry. Okay, so all three of you guys, like, I never heard you guys talk like once. I'm just asking. Like, I'm very curious. Do you guys get paid for this? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm literally just asking, like, seriously, because I'm like wondering, because it's like, it feels like you guys are like the only kind of like trying to engage in a conversation with us, and like it feels like everybody else is just like sitting here to watch. Like,
we were asked to come to kind of just talk about our project, which is why I'm doing a lot of the talking. If we weren't here, they probably.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you for. I've been meaning to say something, but I'm like, I'm not going to say anything because this is your night. So I want to turn this into a little bit more positive note. So as neighborhood officers, we talked about our program. So there's couple of stories we want to actually share with you, with young females from Regent Park. We were running a fitness program a couple of years ago, and she was our first Muslim female hijabi member that we had in our fitness program, and we had a lot of challenges just to deal with that. But we were very inclusive. Like, if I see a female wanting to, it doesn't matter if it's a female or male. I want to help them. Like, this is our opportunity. And she was a student. She was in high school. We pushed her through Pro Action program that we were having, and she became the athlete of the year across the whole city of Toronto. And she actually got a scholarship, which I didn't even know. The next time I know we got a phone call. She's like, "I got a scholarship. Can you come? I'm getting this award." I'm like, "This is fantastic." So we were there for a presentation for a scholarship, and then later on she started. She would call me, say to us like, "Listen, I'm trying to do this thing with my friends. We're helping out the women's shelter. Can you help us?" I'm like, "Absolutely, we can help you. This is what we're here for." Then I looked into it. I'm like, "Well, why don't you start your own little organization?" She goes, "Well, I didn't know." We actually helped her have a nonprofit organization, and she started. This is what we're talking about, the grassroots. She was actually able to get the funding, and she didn't really need our help anymore because she was self-contained in her work that she was doing, along with the volunteers that were helping her. And I told them, I go, "Why don't you come up with a name?" And they finally did, and we went back and forth, and then they came up with Youth Gravity. Some of you may already know. So yeah. So that's part of this is what we do. I know we like our superintendent said, there's only so much we can do, and really, as this is part of our job, and we don't want to sell ourselves short. We actually want ourselves over because we want to be able to see how much we can do to push you, and hopefully that momentum is going to take. Yes, in society we're going to have these, unfortunately, these issues where the big potatoes are always going to eat up the small potatoes, but somehow we got to navigate through that. And in the other terms, I'll share another story. We had a boxing program before COVID, and it was such an amazing program. And one of the students that we had, we had a lot of challenges with him because he was really a youth at risk. And we did everything that we could on our part, and we had a lot of good conversations. And after the program was finished, we ended up coming across him, and we found out he was selling a lot of drugs from his own car. And it was really disappointing for us. And he even had the boxing bag that we gave him, for his gym bag, and he was using it to keep the safe in there and to keep the drugs and money in there. And the reason we're sharing the story is because it's not something that we could have just said, you know what, go ahead. We don't want to arrest you. We're not going to say anything. It was something pretty major, right? And we still have a job to do, but we still kept in mind that we don't want to hurt this guy's future because we know he's a good kid. And guess what happened? So yes, we had to charge him, but we stayed on top of him because we had a relationship with him, and we were able to speak with the Crown Attorney. We were able to connect him with the resources so he doesn't get incarcerated. He doesn't get this another blockage in front of him where he says, oh, okay, I give up, I'm not going to this. I even tried with the police and look, nothing happened. So we actually stayed on him. We did our job, but on top of that, we went the extra mile to make sure that we just don't let him stand here. Go ahead to the justice system because we know the justice system is a bit broken. So we did our due diligence to make sure that to figure out. We do. I mean, we're not. He said talk about the truth. We're here to talk about the truth, and we know it's difficult to get through that justice system, especially for the youth. And this is part of what we do. This is why I want to share our story with you guys. So yes, some of you youth may not know us, and I said COVID really took us back, but please take advantage of what you have here as well. Yes, it's not going to be a free ride to the sky, but at least it's a step to the right direction.
Actually, I just want to say something. I just want to say something. Thank you so much for allowing me to talk, because I love talking, trust me. We could talk all night. And because of the program and everything, I allowed everybody else to speak. Usually my partner stops me because I talk too much. So I'll just tell you guys this, hearing from you guys, honestly, I was just sitting here reflecting and sinking everything in, because you talked about poverty, you talked about systemic racism, you talked about doing it by any means, getting the job done, bringing the food on the table. I was born and raised in Afghanistan, Kabul, Afghanistan. We escaped the Taliban 21 years ago with my family. So when you speak about getting it done by any means, trust me, I get it. When you talk about poverty, trust me, I know real poverty. And even coming to Canada, I spent 12 years in the housing, living in the project. So me, it's not because I don't want to say anything, but I just wanted to listen to you guys, and I could relate so much to the things that you guys are saying. I mean, I've seen things firsthand in a completely different side of the world, in Kabul, Afghanistan, how the violence and all the bad things that was happening there. And we came here to get a brighter future. We came here for a good tomorrow. One thing I could share with you guys is that, from somebody who was left a war-torn country like Afghanistan, and trust me, sometimes when I engage with youth, this is not to downplay what's been happening here in North America. Like the history is long with the anti-black racism and all that stuff that's happening. It's really long, and there's no way that we can downplay it. But I just try to talk to the youth and tell them, hey, listen, there's a lot of opportunities still that we have here in this country that a lot of other people around the world do not have. Look at the bigger picture. There's literally millions of people around the world that would love and die to have even 1% of the chances that we have right now. So yes, the system is not perfect, the police is not perfect, the justice system is not perfect, we may not have the best mayor in the city, but we still have a lot of things that we could work together and build towards and be successful. Let's not just look at the negative things, right? I mean, for me, I used to bring water, just even take a shower from miles away, just take it, even just have hot or cold water. We used to boil it up. So I tell youth nowadays, nobody's dying of hunger last time I checked in Canada, right? Again, not to downplay poverty, not to downplay anything like that, but in order for us to see change, I truly believe that as a community, and I am part of the community, there's no you and me here. I don't like using those terms because I don't live by the uniform. I take this off. I go to see my family. They still live in the projects. I still have a lot of connections back home. So I don't see myself as a cop 24/7. I'm part of the community. I work with the youth. I play programs. I have lots of friends in the community. I'm really engaged deeply in the communities and a lot of communities across Toronto. So the one solution I see is it's a two-way street. Let's work together. And as our superintendent said, this is just a start. I mean, I understand, trust me, when I was just sitting here, I'm just thinking what you're saying. You guys are absolutely bang on right because I've seen it. I have seen it. You know, I'm a Muslim too. Like, you know, I've seen all those things and how my high school counselors or they treated me, just looking at me, coming in, not speaking English, and having all those challenges along the way. So I've seen it too. It's not like, you know, just, and I've been through, my family, myself, we've been through a lot of difficult times. So I can relate to you guys. That's why I was trying to sit here and listen to you guys so I can sink all the information in. But again, the only solution I see here is let's work together. You know what I mean? Let's work together because together we're united, we're strong. We need to be there for one another, and let's learn from one another, right? Like, just, you know, like I love the youth that they're speaking. I mean, I never had a chance. I'll be honest with you. I never had a chance to for officers like him. Like he's a higher up in the ranking system, our superintendent, right? Nobody gave me a chance to talk to a superintendent of the police when I was growing up. I spent 10 years the policing. I don't even want to tell you the stories of what kind of policing I was raised while I was living in Afghanistan and Pakistan, later on in Pakistan, right? I never trusted a cop, ever. I never spoke to a single cop. I never even said a word to a cop for the first 10 years of my life in Canada. So I understand that those trust issues between police and the public and how there's some mistreatments and all those issues that we have. But again, since we have this opportunity, let's use it in a positive way. Let's teach one another, and just like you said, let's work together. And if the solution is, you know, that we need to speak to the higher ups, like politicians, the policymakers, or the people that can actually make the real change, then let's do it together. You know what I mean? That's all I have to say, guys.
The gentleman there wanted to speak. I think the girl in the green over there, MJ and Khalil wanted to talk. So just letting you know, all those people are waiting to say something.
So I just wanted to kind of jump at some potential solutions as we're chatting about this.
Hard to hear you.
I know, it's always hard to hear. Don't have the biggest voice. So I've listened a lot about, you know, the systemic challenges, who's to blame. I've heard a lot of that. My challenge back is, we've heard people here say economics is a real way forward, right? We all work within our own bureaucracies. And so, because we work in our own bureaucracies, we're always looking for solutions within our bureaucracy, right? So I guess I'm thinking about what are the possibilities of solutions extended of the bureaucracy that allows grassroots opportunities, right? And that doesn't have to be about me in the city. That could be a police piece right away, right? So how do we define prevention? Lots of us think of prevention in many different ways, right? Organizationally, you've got a definition for it. But some people in communities are saying maybe the way we see prevention is not the way you see prevention, right? And, you know, is there a way to bring those two thought processes together? Is there a way to take some of the recovered monies, right, from proceeds of crime, and commit it to a grassroots opportunity? As an example of you making that commitment to saying, as an extension of our organization, we also believe that there needs to be an upsurge of something that happens locally. And that's credible, and we support it. Even though its methodologies might be a little different from what we endeavor to within the organization. But we legitimize it because we recognize that there's a completely different definition of prevention that's laden within community, right? And I think that's a good takeaway. I think we all have, as I do, a responsibility to look at our own organizational structures and hear from people and say, okay, how do we take that message forward, right? And I think that this is a real blessing here from what I've heard today, that there's an opportunity as we grow the institutional need with a youth committee and that kind of a thing, and promote the push around prevention of gang violence and guns, right? How do we embed something in a community with a young man like this who's talked about his frustration of trying to do that work and not getting the funding, right? So why are we not within our own arm of our own organization saying, you know what, let's figure out what you're trying to do locally. And hey, how do we assist that with the same stream of cash? So now we are actually making that commitment. as a thought process.
I can just add something. So Khalil and I have been working together for many years. So a couple of years ago, we started something, and with the BCC and everybody, it's called the I Pact. So the I Pact is a movement that we started that. Actually, Khalil was on the meeting with me like years ago. And the I Pact was met to hear from the youth and all ideas that they had, and they brought that to us, and we were trying to make it happen. So, and I understand where Khalil is coming from when you talked about grants. Even with me and Khalil, and we need, it's the grant now, the way it works, it's got to be different collaboration to make a grant happen. So the concept of the I Pact, it's really working together and having the youth coming up with the idea. That was not, I had nothing to do with it. That was them coming up with the idea. And how can we as adults, and if we have the opportunity and to make it happen. So that concept is something that we've been working together, but Khalil will say it's still very challenging because we need to work together. And a lot of the time, it's not happening.
I'm not suggesting that we're going to fix it overnight.
Yeah.
But what I am suggesting, though, is that if we start to take that thinking forward, and if there's a change opportunity within your organization, believe it or not, that now empowers the community to tackle the other organizations because there is a model. There is a pilot. There is a suggested way. And if you're the pioneers of that, and these folks can now go and say, hey, you've identified these other 10 organizations that have this money, let's see if we can get them on board with a similar kind of concept. Just a concept.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, hit the little notification bell so you never miss out on any of our content. If you'd also like more, you can find us on our other social media platforms. And if you want even more, you can look at our website.
Thank you.